Hello, Abigail here with the Tarotscopes for Taurus season, Aries sun, moon, and rising. All right, my Aries folks, I know your season was something extra special, an eclipse, two personal planet retrogrades, the post shadow period, and Cancer with Mars. We had Neptune moving into Aries for the first time in our lifetimes. And for the last time in our, well, it'll go one more time, but you get my point. This is like a once in a generation thing. Um, it's just a lot. And we're moving into Taurus season. There is more space. There is more room to breathe. I will say for you all, because you do have Saturn inching ever closer and Neptune is in there, it's still going to feel a little full, but there is still less needing to brace for that energetic impact that we experienced in Aries season. And, I know some people have done super fine with all of this energy, but I think even if you did okay with it, there's just a level of exhaustion that everyone's feeling. So take some downtime in Taurus season. Based on your cards, you do still have things to do. Some of the signs are literally like chill. So if you have like, I don't know, a Gemini moon and you're in Aries, look at both of them and then kind of decide which one, pick and choose the advice that you want to take. Take some time to take downtime for yourself and then, some time to process. I will say I think the processing is going to happen naturally. So it's not really something that you need to push. It feels as though you're needing to kind of digest what has happened in, the earlier part of 2025. So allow yourself that time, even within the decisions you have to make. And not to mention, Venus is still going to be in Aries for all of Taurus season. So that's happening. It's in detriment, yes. Um, so just be aware that you still have stuff going on, but you have more space to feel, more space to fall apart if you need to fall apart, more space to enjoy the world at hand. And I really encourage you to do so, especially with the spring weather. It's really lovely. So, starting off with your oracle card, we have enchantment. Use your words consciously. What spells have you been putting out into the world, my Aries folks? What magic have you been creating with your words? Um, I'm not always a fan of the whole like never say anything negative because negative things will happen. That's just not true. You're allowed to be mad at stuff. But if you are constantly telling yourself certain stories or telling other people certain stories, they do tend to come true. So just be conscious in this season of the stories that you're telling yourself, of, you know, not the reality of what happened, but, stories like, this always happens. Something I heard at the very beginning of this year that has stuck with me. And at first I was like, ah, how trite. But it's actually true. Is someone said, if you say things like this always happens or I never get this thing, add until now on the end of it. And I've been doing that. And maybe it's made a change, maybe it hasn't, but it has definitely made a change. Maybe it's made a change externally, but internally it's made a huge change for me. Just being like, I've never been able to like get stuff without someone else's recommendation until now. I've never been able to, consistently make money until now. It's hard because I'm disabled. So there is also just a level of like physical inability that I have to deal with, that until now is not going to change. But the mindset of believing that one is not ever going to get anything or that this only happens a certain way, I think is harmful over time, especially when it comes to like us creating dreams that align with us. If we're constantly thinking that our dreams are going to fail, it does lead to them failing more often. So just be thoughtful with those stories and those tales, and also use them to tell a beautiful grand story. Tell a story where you are victorious and where you achieve things, not like delusional, but like this is possible. I have everything that I need to do this. Reginald, hey, sorry, my dog's barking. Come here, baby. Come on. He's 8 pounds. He likes to play a big game. Um, so yeah, just think about your words as enchantments this Taurus season and the importance of them. This is also especially true because Mercury is moving into Taurus. I also have like a longer video on the astrology for this season if you're interested. But I find that when Mercury is in Earth signs, the weight of words is heavier. So the things that you commit to, the promises you make, all of those things are a little longer lasting. So just be conscious of that. Moving into our tarot, we have a Two of Swords. Like I said, you have decisions to make. I think it's important that, you know, it doesn't always have to be one or the other. It can be both and, but you will have to sacrifice things on either side to get two things. Um, and I think some of these decisions you're having to make have been a long time coming. So this is really about trusting what you believe that you want and what you desire, and also just being okay with missing out on something. When we take one road, we automatically choose not to go down a multitude of other roads, and that's okay. And being afraid of missing out will just get you stuck at the crossroads. So, allow yourself to move through things, trust where you need to go. Also, you have multiple lifetimes to do multiple things. So don't view everything as so pressing. Do what you feel suits you best in the body and the soul and the purpose that you feel that you have. And if this is a question about your purpose, I'll remind you that while purpose is important, the act of breathing and existing and taking up energetic space in this world is a purpose. So you don't need to have something deeply defined in order to have value. And literally just breathing and existing is what makes you valuable. So the choices that you make have nothing to do with your value. And I feel like that can take a lot of weight off of us. We do have judgment, but judgment is something that is inevitable. So don't feel like you have to push this along or manipulate it or figure it out. I do think a lot of stuff that didn't get wrapped up fully during the retrogrades and the eclipses are going to wrap up in Taurus season for you. So be ready for a continuation of kind of these big beginnings and endings. But understand that this is residue from eclipse energy. So this is unavoidable. There is nothing you could do to change whatever these outcomes are. And it is an opportunity to rise again, to use to use Christian language, because that is what this card is based off of, the final judgment, or if we want to go technically, the white throne judgment, because there are several. If you can't tell, I'm ex-Christian from a very fundamentalist home. So there are these really big cycles wrapping up. There are things and people and places being called to task for past decisions. Maybe some things are going to come bite you in the butt, but they're not biting you in the butt because you did something wrong. They're biting you in the butt because that's just kind of the natural progression of some decisions. And once they're gone, they're gone. So let them go, especially towards the end. I do think this is going to happen probably around the lunar events. So Taurus new moon's pretty spicy in a very intense way. And the Scorpio full moon is also spicy, but in a more Uranian way. So a little more expansion in that full moon versus the new moon, which I think is going to force a lot of people to really stand on business or not. There's also the option of completely abandoning your values and your passions and going along with the crowd and living a miserable life. Hopefully we're not making those choices, but I think a lot of people are going to be called to take a stand on what they believe in for this new moon in Taurus, and it's coming up fast. Then we have the King of Swords, which the Pisces also had. This is about really believing in your beliefs and really trusting your values. This is about everything you've learned in that Venus retrograde. It's also about not hiding. I've seen a lot of rhetoric online recently about hiding, and some people genuinely do need to hide and be protected, but a lot of us really just need to stand up and say no. A lot of people are waiting for things to get so bad that people are gone forever, which is already happening. And that's not acceptable, to predicate your action on things being so bad that you're forced to do something rather than trying to preempt it, trying to stop bad things from happening to your community, trying to keep the people that you love safe. There's an obsession in this country with safety and comfort. I'm guilty of it too. I don't think it's bad to want safety and comfort, firstly, but this idea that if we play small and hide ourselves, that we will be protected, and there's some kind of moral good in that, rather than playing big, having the opportunity to make mistakes, but having made mistakes, trying to do what is right and trying to keep people from harm from the powers that be. So I encourage you to use your Aries energy this season to fight and to be bold and to find community and to stand up for what is right. This also really plays into our justice card and the lessons that we learned in the nodes between Aries and Libra, about people who are our allies and people who are not, and people who are giving equitably. I think a lot of the people I see who are willing to sacrifice their communities for safety didn't learn their Aries Libra lessons. Instead, they took the North Node in Aries as abandoning everyone for yourself, and the South Node is abandoning everyone, rather than the integration of the North and the South Node, where you individuate in the context of community and you find the people who align with you, and then you stand strong. You know, there's always multiple ways to interpret an astrological event, and I do believe there are ways that are worse than others. So stand firm. I don't mean that you need to go out and get yourself hurt or do something dangerous, but to be honest and brave and to care about people enough to not want to sacrifice the first group because you'll be safer in, like, you know, section 4 or 5 or 8 or 9 or 10. It's better to stand up now than to let people be picked off one by one. And I believe that most of my Aries know that and don't need me to say that. But this new moon in Taurus and Taurus season isn't really about the massive astrological events because they don't exist in this season, but it is about that commitment to what we have learned so far. And it's not without loss. We do have the Five of Pentacles. You're going to be disappointed in people in Taurus season. You're going to feel that some of your investments haven't, fully flourished. One of my favorite decks has the image of like rotted tomatoes on it. Because as everyone knows, you can have tomatoes almost right, and if something hits them, they'll rot on the vine. And it's a beautiful kind of example of the disappointment that you have when you've watched and nurtured and cared for something and seen it grow, and then it just gets blighted. And it feels like some of that's happening. I will encourage you. I think it is because of some stuff that's wrapping up. I don't think it's irreplaceable, but it doesn't mean that it hurts or stings any less. So hold space for yourself in that. I know there's still stuff happening in Aries. I know you're still deeply involved, but where you can, let the universe do what it needs to do. Take some naps, hang out with your friends, enjoy your hobbies, do things that bring you joy, so that when the time comes, you can embody justice. Anyways, my loves, that is my reading for Taurus season. This is also my last Tarotscope. I've done all 12 of them at this point. Yay. If you have any questions, pop them in the comment section. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy my stuff. And blessed Taurus season. I will see you later.